That was the label on a USB drive I slid across the polished counter of the U.S. Embassy in Lisbon, Portugal. My fingers trembled, not from fear but from sheer adrenaline. I hadn't slept in 2 days. My shoes were scuffed to hell. My shirt still stank from the airport floor I'd spent the night on after my wife and cousin ditched me at the resort with no money, no ID, no flight home. "Sir, what exactly is this?" the consular officer asked, cautiously picking it up. "It's everything," I said. "Proof of fraud, identity theft, adultery, illegal wire transfers, and a few things that might interest the IRS." Let me rewind. My name's Mason, and I'm from Spokane, Washington. I'm 34, work in logistics for a regional grocery chain, and until a few weeks ago, I thought I had a pretty average marriage. My wife, Talia, and I had been together for 5 years. We weren't fireworks and poetry, but we had built something steady. I thought that mattered. I thought loyalty and showing up every day counted for something. Guess not. Our family vacation was supposed to be a big gesture. We'd never gone abroad before, so I planned a 2-week European trip with stops in Lisbon, Madrid, and Rome. I paid for everything: flights, Airbnbs, excursions. Even added my cousin Levi to the trip, since he'd just lost his job and Talia said he needed to pick me up. That should have been the first red flag. See, Levi and I grew up close. He was the funny one, the charming one, the golden retriever energy everyone liked instantly. He always had a story, a new hustle, a different girl every few months. He never held down a job longer than 6 months, but my family loved him. My mom always said he had a heart of gold. Turns out that heart of gold had a thing for other people's wives. We were 5 days into the trip, sitting in an outdoor cafe near the Alfama district in Lisbon, when Talia dropped the bomb. We had just finished lunch. I was paying the bill. I remember it was sunny, not too hot. There was this guy playing the guitar on the corner. Then, as the server walked away, Talia turned to me and said, "I can't do this anymore. I'm done pretending." I laughed at first. I thought she meant the trip was stressful or something. Then she stood up, clinked her glass with a fork, and in front of everyone, me, Levi, the waiter, the guitarist, God, and whoever else, said, "I want to be honest. I'm in love with Levi. He's my soulmate. We're done hiding." It took me a second to process. The whole cafe went quiet. Levi didn't even look guilty. He just slid his arm around her waist and smiled like he won something. "You're serious?" I asked. "You're really doing this?" "Here. You never had real passion," she said, loud enough for half the street to hear. "You were just safe. Boring. I want to live." Then they walked away, hand in hand, leaving me at the table with the bill and our travel documents. That's when I realized they had taken my passport, maxed out my credit cards on couples massages, and canceled my return flight. I was stranded, alone, betrayed, and completely broke. The hours after they disappeared were a blur. I wandered the streets of Lisbon like a ghost, phone dead, my bank account drained, and my passport gone. I couldn't check into a hostel, couldn't get a return flight, couldn't even rent a damn power bank. And that was by design. Talia and Levi hadn't just betrayed me emotionally. They had systematically dismantled my ability to function. Before the trip, I'd added them both as authorized users on one of my travel credit cards. For convenience. That convenience turned into a $12,000 spree that included luxury spa treatments, expensive seafood dinners, matching designer clothes, and according to one receipt I later pulled from the card statement, intimate couples photo session at Coastal Villa. I sat at a bus station near Kais do Soder for 6 hours before I finally found a guy named Paolo who was selling used chargers. I offered him my wedding ring as payment. He hesitated, looked me over, and nodded. He didn't speak much English, but he gave me the charger and pointed to a bench near the wall outlet. When my phone turned back on, my stomach dropped. There were texts from Levi. "You really shouldn't have been so trusting, bro. Talia says, hey, winking face. Don't worry. We'll take care of your cat. Maybe rename her. Something less lame than Pumpkin." But the worst one? A selfie of the two of them in the bathrobe from her hotel suite, drinking champagne. And that's when I snapped. No more Mason the Reliable. No more good guy. That guy was dead. The guy who stood up from that bench had one goal: make them regret the day they ever crossed me. I made it to the U.S. Embassy the next morning. Still smelled like sweat and betrayal, but I had one thing they hadn't stolen, a backup folder I kept in my Google Drive labeled legal crap. It had scans of my marriage license, tax returns, bank info, and a few extras, like screenshots of Levi begging me to co-sign his student loans, and Talia's emails to her ex 2 years ago, long before Levi entered the picture, where she described how dead she felt being married to someone with zero edge. I used the embassy's public computer to download all of it to a flash drive Paolo had given me, labeled it Final Straw. I walked in and asked for help. After reviewing my documents and confirming my identity, they issued me an emergency passport. Now I just needed to get home. But I wasn't flying coach. I found a last-minute first-class seat on a credit line Levi didn't know about, one tied to my business account that required a passcode only I knew. $4,800 ticket, worth every cent. By the time I touched down in Spokane, the rage had calcified into a strategy. My apartment? Empty. Talia had taken everything, TV, furniture, even the damn Keurig. All that was left was Pumpkin, my cat, looking confused in a sea of dust outlines where my life used to be. But she made one mistake. Talia didn't know that I worked in logistics. That meant I had access to tracking software, scheduling systems, and inventory databases for over 50 grocery stores in the Northwest. I also managed back-end communications for several regional warehouses, where Levi just so happened to have picked up a side gig a few months earlier, thanks to my referral. I checked the employee log. Levi had clocked in 3 times since they got back. So I started small, deleted his schedule. Then I marked his employee ID as terminated in the system and triggered a fraud flag. I waited. 2 days later, I got a call from my buddy Tyler in HR. "Hey, Mason, weird question. Did you flag Levi Wexler for fraud?" "Yeah," I said, "and I've got the receipts." Then I sent Tyler the screenshots of Levi using my corporate card during the trip, a card meant only for employees. By the end of the day, Levi was blacklisted from working in any affiliated warehouse or partner vendor in the state. But that was just level 1. Level 2, Talia. I went through our shared bank accounts. She tried to move our joint savings, nearly $14,000, into her own personal account the day after the Lisbon confession. But thanks to a little-known hold I'd placed on that account for emergency verification, the transfer never cleared. I walked into the credit union in person with a printed copy of her confession text and Levi's champagne selfie. "I believe this qualifies as financial abuse during a pending divorce," I told the manager. The manager froze, looked at the photos, and after a few minutes, she nodded. "Would you like to withdraw in cash?" I walked out with $13,972 in an envelope and a grin I hadn't felt in weeks. I wasn't done yet. I hired a friend's older brother, Eddie, a computer tech with a minor hacking streak. He helped me dig into Talia's social media DMs. Not to hack them, just to flag and scrape public metadata and timestamps. We found something unexpected. 2 months before our trip, Talia had applied for a housing lease in Seattle under her maiden name, with Levi listed as her partner. The lease was co-signed by a forged signature, mine. Guess which bank statement she submitted to prove income? Yep, mine. Eddie helped me compile it all onto another USB. I called my divorce lawyer and said, "I have something you'll want to see." My lawyer's name was Vanessa Park, and if you ever need someone who can tear down a liar with a polite smile and legal precedent, she's your girl. I walked into her office on Monroe Street the morning after I got back. She had sleek glasses, a tidy desk, and an expression that said she didn't suffer fools. I handed her the USB drive labeled Final Straw and said, "Start with the lease fraud." She plugged it in her laptop, clicked around, and slowly raised one eyebrow. Did she really think no one would notice she forged your signature on a lease and submitted your financials under her maiden name? She said. "She's not that smart," I said. "She just thinks I'm that dumb." Vanessa leaned back in her chair. "We're going to make this very, very expensive for them." Within the hour, she had filed an emergency petition to freeze all joint marital assets, submitted evidence of financial fraud, and motioned for an accelerated divorce hearing citing deliberate deceit and financial abuse. The judge granted it within the day. But that was just legal positioning. I had something else in mind for Levi. Something personal. See, Levi had a dream. A very dumb, very public dream. He wanted to be a YouTube vlogger. Back home, he'd started a small channel called Ride with Levi, where he posted clickbait travel vlogs and deep talks about passion and freedom. Mostly filmed on his phone, with bad lighting and half-baked monologues about why jobs were a scam and love was worth risking everything. He had 2,300 subscribers, and in one of his latest uploads, he had the absolute audacity to vlog from my Lisbon balcony, sipping wine and saying, "Sometimes you have to leave the past behind, even if it screams." He even tagged it #FreedomTrip. So I made a burner Reddit account, then another, and another. Then I posted screen grabs from their trip receipts, hotel charges, and her texts under the caption, "Wife cheats on husband during romantic getaway. Funded by said husband." Guess which guy actually paid for this soulmate journey? It hit the front page of our /2 hot takes and our /just no cheaters in less than 24 hours. People ate it up. Thousands of comments. Then someone linked Levi's vlog. That's when things really exploded. His video got ratioed into oblivion. Dislikes tripled. Comments like, "Dude, you're flexing on a balcony you didn't pay for. You stole his wife and then his credit card. She left him for this?" Levi made a response video. Big mistake. He tried to set the record straight. Claimed I emotionally neglected Talia and that the heart wants what it wants. That video got flagged so many times for misinformation and targeted harassment that YouTube took it down in 6 hours. Then they demonetized his whole channel. Strike 3? Levi's side hustle. I had already gotten him blacklisted from every regional warehouse job, but now I went after his new gig, an Uber Eats delivery route he started under a new name. How do I know? Because he posted a TikTok flexing a pizza delivery in a car that looked exactly like my old Honda Civic. The same car I'd co-signed for. One DMV records request later, I confirmed it. He transferred the car's title without paying off the loan, using a forged bill of sale. I walked into the DMV with paperwork in hand and said, "I believe my cousin committed title fraud." They pulled the records, flagged it, and issued a repossession notice. 2 weeks later, a tow truck rolled up in front of their Seattle apartment. Levi ran outside in a bathrobe and socks, yelling at the driver. Talia followed, barefoot, holding a mug. I was parked across the street. I didn't honk. I just watched as my car, got lifted off the ground while they screamed at a guy doing his job. Now, remember that lease they fraudulently got approved? Turns out, the landlord had a strict income verification clause. Vanessa sent a notarized statement showing the documents were falsified. They were evicted in 15 days. Which brings me to the final act. The wedding video. Yeah, I kept it. Not because I like watching it, because I knew someday I'd need it. Talia had always loved to perform. She gave this whole teary speech during the reception about choosing love, even when it's hard. So I took that speech, paired it with clips from Lisbon, the bathrobe selfie, the vlogs, the spa receipt. Then I uploaded the whole thing to YouTube under the title, "My Wife Chose Love," with my cousin, on my dime. It wasn't monetized. I didn't need the money. I just needed the world to see it. Within a week, it hit 2 million views. Friends from high school texted me, stunned. People I hadn't spoken to in years messaged to say, "Dude, you okay?" I wasn't, but I was getting there. And when Talia messaged me, finally, her tone had changed. "Can we talk?" I didn't realize how far this would go. I blocked her because I was done being the fallback guy, the safe bet, the plan B. Now, I was the ending she never saw coming. I thought I was done. I thought getting the car repossessed, watching their eviction from across the street, and seeing Levi's stupid channel crumble would be enough. But that was before I got a letter from the IRS. At first, I assumed it was a refund check because I'd overpaid quarterly taxes on my freelance consulting. But nope, it was an audit notice. Apparently, someone had submitted an amended tax return under my name, claiming false income, requesting a refund for over $18,000. My stomach dropped because I knew damn well I hadn't filed anything. I called the IRS fraud hotline, confirmed it was identity theft, and asked for a trace on the IP used to file it. The agent told me to report it to the FTC and file a police report immediately. I did both. While I was at it, I called Eddie again, my tech guy. He traced the IP used for the fake filing. It matched an apartment complex in Seattle. Not just any building. The same one Talia and Levi had lived in before they were evicted. They tried to commit federal tax fraud. In my name. That's when I realized they weren't just selfish. They were desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. Eddie also found something else. A backup Google account tied to Talia's phone number. It wasn't private. She'd forgotten to unlink it when she changed phones. And oh boy, was that account loaded. Hundreds of emails between her and Levi. Some of them dated months before the Europe trip. Subject lines like "Plan for Portugal kiss mark" and "Your real life starts soon." There were spreadsheets too, plans to liquidate our assets, split the money, even buy a van to start some #vanlife Instagram couple crap. One email chilled me. He's too trusting. We just need him to cover the last bookings. After that, I don't care what happens to him. And another from Levi, "Don't worry. If we need to disappear, we can say he was emotionally abusive." No one ever questions the woman. They weren't just planning to leave me. They were planning to ruin me. So I called Vanessa again. She added the emails to our evidence packet. Not just for divorce court. This was now a full-blown fraud and identity theft case. Talia and Levi were subpoenaed for an emergency hearing. They didn't show. Instead, I got another text. This one from a burner number. "Why are you trying to destroy us? We're happy. You should just move on." Move on? I moved on the second they stole my passport and left me sleeping on concrete 5,000 miles from home. Now, I was following through. Vanessa filed criminal complaints for identity theft, tax fraud, forgery, financial abuse, unlawful use of personal data. We submitted the full folder to both the Spokane County Sheriff's Office and the IRS. Weeks passed. Then I got a call from Detective Lynn. "We've located both individuals. There's enough to proceed with criminal charges. You may be asked to testify." I didn't even blink. "Tell me when and where." Meanwhile, the divorce was finalized in my favor. The judge granted me full control over the joint assets, awarded damages for financial harm, and nullified the lease and car title completely. I walked away with every cent I hadn't already lost, and more. But the best part? Talia's new employer, some trendy interior design firm in Seattle, found out about the IRS investigation. She was let go, quietly, but completely. Levi? Last I heard, he was working as a barback in Renton, still trying to start a new channel under a fake name. It has 37 subscribers. And me? I took the cash, bought a modest house in Missoula, Montana. Peaceful, quiet, good Wi-Fi. I live alone now. Pumpkin sleeps on my chest most nights. I make enough consulting to work 3 days a week. And every now and then, someone recognizes me from the viral video and says, "Man, that story was wild. You're the guy who," "Yeah, I'm that guy. The guy who paid for a honeymoon he didn't know wasn't his. The guy who was betrayed, robbed, humiliated, and still came out 10 steps ahead." Because revenge? It doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes it's just a USB drive and the patience to watch the fuse burn.